I've observed that the Amish manage to grow double the amount of food without relying on power or machinery. Furthermore, a specific Amish garden technique I learned about actually revitalized dead soil, turning it into a veritable tomato jungle within just a few weeks. These traditional farmers do more than just garden. They effectively conquer the soil by utilizing what most consider trash, such as banana peels, ashes, and even cardboard. In doing so, they nourish their plants while the majority of people are simply adding to landfills. Let's delve deeper into these methods. It's important because one of these buried secrets, if improperly executed, could potentially destroy your entire harvest, and this critical detail is rarely discussed. Let's begin with some straightforward buried secrets involving peels and cardboard. Take banana peels, for example. While most folks toss them without a second thought, Amish gardeners regard them as buried treasure. Banana skins are densely packed with beneficial elements for plants, particularly potassium, which flowering plants like tomatoes, roses, and squash especially appreciate. All these plants readily absorb it. The application is simple. Just dig a small hole near the plant, drop the peel in, and cover it with soil. Over time, it decomposes and directly feeds the roots. Some gardeners go to the extent of drying and crushing the peels into a powder, storing it for use during colder seasons. Others simply bury the peels whole as they are. Regardless of the method, it represents nature's own fertilizer, sourced directly from your breakfast. And just wait until you hear about their use of eggshells. Here's another commonly discarded item that achieves remarkable results: coffee grounds. Although the Amish generally don't consume coffee, they are diligent about collecting the used grounds. Grounds obtained from neighborhood shops are gathered in sacks and then spread across the soil. Plants that prefer acidic conditions, such as blueberries and hydrangeas, absolutely love this addition. The grounds introduce a subtle acidity to the soil, which these particular plants crave. Hydrangeas might even exhibit a color shift, becoming more vibrant and bluer simply due to the increased acidity. Additionally, slugs strongly dislike traversing coffee grounds. The gritty texture irritates their undersides. Consequently, you gain free mulch, an effective slug repellent, and a secret bloom enhancer, all from one source. Cardboard might appear to be mere garbage, but within Amish gardens, it serves as a reliable workhorse. I learned to flatten a box, ensuring all tape and staples were removed first. Then, I laid it directly between the garden rows. Topping it with some grass clippings or leaves transforms it into an effective weed barrier. It blocks sunlight, preventing weeds from sprouting beneath it, and simultaneously helps retain soil moisture, much like a lid seals a pot. Perhaps the best part is that earthworms are drawn to the environment beneath the cardboard, actively turning dry, compacted dirt into soft, rich earth. After just one growing season, the cardboard breaks down and integrates into the ground, supplying it with valuable carbon. This approach results in zero waste, fewer weeds, and ultimately, healthier soil. Composting often sounds like demanding work to some, bringing to mind images of pitchforks and steaming piles. However, the Amish employ a much simpler, lazy method involving layers. They stack organic materials much like constructing a sandwich. It involves alternating layers, one layer of green materials, such as vegetable scraps or fresh grass clippings, followed by a layer of brown materials, like dry leaves or old newspapers. This layering process is repeated. That's essentially it. There's no requirement for flipping or stirring the pile, only patience is needed. Even items like eggshells, tough cabbage stalks, and onion skins are included. These materials decompose over time, releasing essential nutrients and effectively turning kitchen refuse into garden treasure. Eggshells are particularly beneficial due to their high calcium content, which plays a crucial role in preventing blossom end rot in tomatoes. During the cold winter months, Amish households rely on burning wood for heat. Once the fires extinguish, the resulting ash isn't discarded. Instead, it's carefully scooped into buckets. This gray, powdery residue is abundant in calcium and potassium, making it ideal for nourishing tomatoes and fruit trees. A light application sprinkled around the base of these plants in the springtime provides them with added strength and enhances their flavor. However, it's important to note that not all plants benefit from wood ash. Acid-loving plants such as blueberries, azaleas, and rhododendrons dislike ash because it increases the soil's alkalinity, making it unsuitable for them. For most other plants, though, wood ash offers a free nutritional boost straight from the fireplace. Another technique, passed down through generations, is the Three Sisters garden arrangement. This method involves planting corn, beans, and squash together in a way that they mutually support each other's growth. The corn grows tall and sturdy, providing a natural trellis for the beans. The beans, in turn, climb the corn stalks and fix nitrogen from the air, enriching the soil for all three plants. Meanwhile, the squash spreads its broad leaves across the ground, acting as a living mulch that conserves moisture and suppresses weeds. The scratchy texture of squash leaves and stems can even deter some animals. This trio transforms a small patch of land into a highly productive area. The success hinges on selecting appropriate older varieties that grow harmoniously, rather than modern corn types prone to falling over or squash varieties that might overcrowd their companions. Now envision a garden layout devoid of long, straight rows, consisting instead of compact, tidy squares. This is a method some Amish families utilize to maximize yield in limited spaces. Imagine dividing a garden bed into 1 foot by 1 foot blocks. A single tomato plant might occupy 1 block, whereas another block could accommodate as many as 15 carrots. Each square is planted densely, with just enough room for the specific crop. As the plants grow, their leaves grow close together, eventually touching, which shades the soil surface. This shading inhibits weed growth, helps keep the ground moist, and simplifies harvesting. There's no squandered space and minimal wasted effort. Even a very small garden can yield a substantial amount of food using this approach. Sunflowers aren't solely grown for their aesthetic appeal in Amish gardens. They often stand tall along the northern edge of the garden plot. Positioned this way, they provide shade precisely when the sun is at its peak intensity during the hottest part of the day. Plants that prefer cooler conditions, such as lettuce, spinach, and other leafy greens, benefit greatly from this shade. It helps them continue growing longer into the summer, delaying the bolting process that heat typically triggers. Furthermore, sunflowers are excellent at attracting bees and butterflies. These beneficial insects help pollinate the entire garden, not just the sunflowers themselves. More pollinators mean more vegetables. A clear win-win situation. It often begins with something most people discard without a second thought. Coffee grounds. Think of it as plant caffeine, a morning pick-me-up for your garden. Plants, too, seem to appreciate a caffeine boost. Amish communities actively collect used coffee grounds that would otherwise end up in the trash. These grounds are particularly beneficial for acid-loving plants like blueberries and azaleas, and they also improve the overall texture of the soil. Interestingly, they even act as a deterrent for slugs and snails, who find the rough surface unpleasant to crawl over. For hydrangeas, coffee grounds can enhance the intensity of blue blooms by increasing the soil's acidity, nature's free color enhancer. Let's talk about the cardboard trick, nature's own weed barrier. Those cardboard boxes you might earmark for recycling can become a secret weapon against weeds. Amish gardeners place cardboard directly onto garden paths or around the base of plants, often covering it with a thin layer of mulch. This method completely blocks sunlight, effectively killing existing weeds while also helping the soil retain moisture. Earthworms seem to love the dark, moist environment created underneath, readily breaking down the cardboard over time and enriching the soil with carbon as they do. It's a weed barrier that actually improves your garden as it naturally disappears. Consider fireplace ash distribution, winter's contribution to summer gardens. The wood ashes left over from winter heating contain valuable potassium and calcium that your garden soil often needs. A light dusting of this ash can work wonders for tomatoes prone to calcium deficiency, while apple trees treated with it tend to develop stronger, more flavorful fruit. Caution is necessary, however. The alkaline nature of wood ash can be harmful to acid-loving plants such as blueberries. This cyclical process, from tree to fire, then ash to soil, ultimately fostering new growth, perfectly embodies the Amish philosophy: nothing is wasted, and everything serves a purpose. You can build living soil that works for you using the Amish style of compost layering, often called the no-turn or lasagna method. If you mention composting to most gardeners, they'll likely describe a rather labor-intensive process involving turning piles with pitchforks. The Amish approach is considerably simpler. They have refined the lasagna method, a no-turn composting system that transforms kitchen scraps and yard waste into rich, dark compost, black gold, with minimal effort. Instead of creating one large pile that needs regular turning, Amish gardeners construct their compost in flat horizontal layers. They alternate layers of green, nitrogen-rich materials, like kitchen scraps or fresh grass clippings, with layers of brown, carbon-rich materials, such as dry leaves or shredded newspaper. Hugelkultur beds represent another fascinating technique where buried wood creates garden magic. This traditional method, now gaining traction beyond Amish communities, involves transforming fallen tree limbs and logs into self-fertilizing, water-conserving garden beds that actually improve year after year without needing additional inputs. Constructing one is relatively straightforward. Dig a trench, fill it with logs and branches, add layers of kitchen scraps and manure if available, and then top it all off with soil. As the wood slowly decomposes underground, it acts like a sponge, retaining moisture for weeks, which is especially beneficial during dry spells. This decomposition process also releases nutrients gradually over many years, effectively eliminating the need for frequent fertilization. I recall during a harsh 3-week heat wave with no rain, my own hugelkultur experiment stayed moist enough to keep the plants thriving without any extra watering, while traditional beds nearby required daily attention. Many Amish gardeners integrate this method, particularly on steep slopes or in areas where conventional gardening poses challenges. Mastering mulch involves finding free garden protection everywhere. If you know where to look, free garden mulch is abundant. Amish gardens often remain highly productive even during droughts, largely due to their mastery of mulching, using materials most people simply overlook. Fallen autumn leaves, chopped straw, grass clippings, and even shredded newspaper can serve as excellent mulch materials that cost absolutely nothing. When applied in a layer about 3 inches deep around plants, these materials drastically reduce the need for watering by preventing moisture evaporation from the soil surface. Research conducted in drought-prone regions indicates that properly mulched gardens can yield up to 31% more food using the same amount of water compared to unmulched gardens. Beyond conserving water, mulch effectively suppresses weeds, helps regulate soil temperature, and gradually decomposes, enriching the soil over time. This often eliminates the need for store-bought fertilizers. A fundamental principle deeply understood by traditional Amish farmers is to never leave soil bare. This leads to the cover crop revolution. After harvesting, they don't leave garden beds exposed to the harsh elements. Instead, they immediately sow cover crops like clover, rye, or buckwheat. These crops serve to protect and improve the soil during the off-seasons. These protective plants fulfill several vital functions. Their root systems hold the soil together, preventing erosion caused by heavy rains. Their foliage shades the ground, suppressing weeds that would otherwise invade the bare soil. Most importantly, when these cover crops are turned under, tilled into the soil, before the next planting season, they return valuable organic matter to the earth. Winter rye is particularly effective, known for its remarkable soil-improving qualities. When planted in the fall, it develops an extensive root system that helps break up compacted soil. By springtime, soil that was previously hard clay often transforms into crumbly, workable earth, teeming with increased earthworm activity. It's nature's way of plowing your garden while you rest through the winter. Clay pot irrigation is an ancient watering technique that works even when you're away. Sometimes, the most effective solutions have the deepest historical roots. This method dates back over 2,000 years, used in ancient China and Rome. The process involves burying an unglazed clay pot, olla, up to its neck within your garden bed. Fill the pot with water and place a lid on top to reduce evaporation and keep debris out. The porous nature of the unglazed clay allows moisture to slowly seep out into the surrounding soil, delivering water directly to the plant roots over several days or even weeks. This system operates based on simple soil physics rather than complex technology. The clay releases water only when the adjacent soil begins to dry out, thus maintaining a near-perfect moisture balance without requiring electronic timers or sensors. During vacation periods, I've learned you can fill these buried pots before leaving town and return to find your plants well hydrated, eliminating the stress of daily watering needs. Adhering to the morning watering rule can prevent 90% of plant diseases without resorting to chemicals. Traditional Amish gardens operate under a strict guideline: water plants in the morning, never in the evening. This isn't merely tradition, it's based on sound, science-backed wisdom that helps prevent numerous common plant diseases. When water remains on plant leaves overnight, it creates an ideal damp environment for fungal problems like powdery mildew and black spot to develop and spread. Watering in the morning allows the plants ample time to dry completely before the cooler evening temperatures arrive. This simple adjustment in timing can prevent nearly 90% of common garden diseases, all without the need for chemical fungicides or sprays. Early watering offers another advantage. Plants tend to absorb moisture more efficiently during the cooler morning hours. Taking up water before the heat of the day leads to excessive evaporation. Amish-style rain barrels effectively capture nature's gift. The sight of wooden rain barrels positioned under downspouts is a common feature on Amish homesteads. These straightforward water collection systems embody both practical resource management and a profound respect for natural cycles. Consider this: just 1 inch of rainfall landing on a relatively modest 1,000 square foot roof can yield over 600 gallons of water. Unlike tap water provided by municipalities, rainwater is naturally free of chlorine, which can sometimes stress sensitive plants. Its naturally slightly acidic pH makes it particularly suitable for acid-loving plants such as blueberries. During dry spells, the water stored in these barrels can provide significant benefits for both gardens and household finances, potentially reducing summer water bills by 50% to 80%. Set it and forget it with soaker hose systems that save hours of work. Efficiency in the garden often means working smarter, not necessarily harder. Amish gardeners frequently install simple soaker hose systems designed to deliver water directly to the plant roots while simultaneously conserving precious water resources. These hoses are made of porous rubber, allowing water to seep out slowly and evenly along their entire length. Typically buried under a layer of mulch, soaker hoses offer several distinct advantages. Water is delivered straight to the root zone without wetting the foliage, which dramatically reduces the risk of leaf diseases. Water loss due to evaporation drops to nearly zero. Furthermore, plants receive a gentle, consistent supply of moisture rather than experiencing potentially damaging cycles of drought followed by flooding. These watering systems require minimal maintenance and only need occasional checks, freeing you up to enjoy your garden rather than feeling enslaved to the watering can. Creating resilient garden designs involves strategic microclimate identification, finding hidden temperature treasures. Every garden, no matter the size, contains hidden pockets of varying temperatures, spots that naturally stay warmer or cooler than the surrounding areas. Amish gardeners demonstrate a keen ability to identify these naturally occurring microclimates and utilize them to extend their growing seasons without relying on specialized equipment. For instance, that south-facing stone wall absorbs solar energy all day long and radiates heat back out during the night, creating a distinct warm zone that's perfect for cultivating heat-loving crops. Conversely, a low-lying area where cool air tends to settle might be ideal for growing spring lettuce further into the summer than usual. You can discover your own garden's microclimates by observing simple indicators, such as noting where snow melts first in the spring or where frost appears last in the fall. These subtle, silent clues reveal temperature patterns that can help elevate your harvest from ordinary to extraordinary. Simple frost protection methods can save entire harvests. When unexpected frosts pose a threat to tender plants, Amish gardeners quickly employ simple, protective measures that cost next to nothing. Often, the difference between crop survival and complete loss comes down to providing just 4 degrees Fahrenheit of protection. Common household items like old bed sheets, lightweight blankets, or even layers of newspaper can effectively shield plants when temperatures dip unexpectedly close to freezing. Drape these coverings over the plants before sunset. This helps trap the residual warmth radiating from the ground underneath the cover. For smaller, individual plants, upturned buckets, empty pots, or cardboard boxes serve as perfect mini greenhouses. Taking this quick, simple action can salvage crops that would otherwise perish, allowing them to continue growing and producing for weeks or even months longer. Swale and contour techniques help direct water precisely where you need it. Keyline design, a methodology perfected in regions prone to drought, aims to maximize the benefit of every single drop of precious rainfall. This involves creating shallow ditches, known as swales, that follow the natural contours of the land. These swales effectively capture heavy rainfall and guide it gently across the landscape to areas where it's most needed, promoting infiltration rather than runoff. The elegance of this technique lies in its simplicity. A subtle depression dug along the land's natural contour line can transform water from a potentially destructive erosive force into a life-sustaining ally. During heavy downpours, swales significantly slow the water's downhill journey, giving it the necessary time to soak deeply into the soil instead of washing away valuable topsoil. Resilient garden design involves preparing for both drought and flooding conditions. Experiencing extreme weather events doesn't automatically have to result in garden catastrophe. Amish gardeners intentionally design resilient vertical growing systems can lead to sky-high yields even in tiny spaces. Observing traditional Amish gardens often reveals an easily overlooked dimension, the vertical one. While many gardeners primarily think in terms of square footage on the ground, Amish growers have long recognized that a single square foot of ground space can potentially support up to 9 square feet of vertical growing area. This realization completely transformed my own small urban garden from a rather disappointing patch into what felt like an abundant food forest. Simple wooden trellises, frequently constructed from pruned tree branches or salvaged lumber, effectively convert garden walls and fences into highly productive growing surfaces. The real magic unfolds as vining plants like peas, beans, cucumbers, and even small varieties of melons climb upwards, leaving the valuable ground space free for root crops and leafy greens. I fondly remember my grandmother's cucumber arches, which created lush green tunnels over garden paths. The cucumbers hung freely, growing straighter and cleaner than their counterparts sprawling on the ground, and harvesting them was a pleasure rather than a back-straining chore. The potato tire method allows for abundant harvests stacked towards the sky. Impossible. That was my neighbor's reaction when I mentioned harvesting 100 pounds of potatoes from a mere 2-foot corner of my garden. Yet, the potato tire method demonstrates that it's achievable by utilizing vertical space to dramatically multiply yields without needing to expand the garden's overall footprint. The process starts with placing a single old tire on the ground filled with a mix of soil and compost. Plant 3 to 4 seed potatoes inside and cover them with a few inches of soil. As the potato plants grow to about 8 inches tall, you add another tire on top of the first one and fill it with more soil, covering most of the stems but leaving the top leaves exposed. Continue this process of stacking tires and adding soil as the plants grow taller. The real magic happens underground. Each time the stems are buried, they develop new roots and produce more potatoes along the newly covered portion. A stack of 5 tires essentially creates 5 distinct growing levels within the same small footprint. Trellising techniques represent garden architecture that truly works. My initial cucumber harvest was quite disheartening. Mostly twisted, yellow-bellied fruits hidden amongst tangled vines on the ground. Then, an Amish farmer showed me the incredible transformation that simple trellising can bring. Vegetables allowed to hang freely as they grow tend to develop a more perfect shape, and the increased airflow around the plants helps prevent diseases. The A-frame trellis, for example, creates a sturdy structure capable of supporting heavy fruiting plants like cucumbers or melons, while allowing for easy harvesting from both sides. Florida weave trellising employs stakes and twine to create horizontal support lines, effectively guiding tomato plants upwards into a living wall of fruit that stays cleaner and less prone to disease. For pole beans, constructing a simple teepee structure using bamboo poles not only provides excellent support, but also creates a fun hideaway for children, all while producing beans for months. These architecturally inspired supports do more than just boost yields. They turn garden maintenance from a dreaded chore into a genuine pleasure, with every vegetable clearly visible and easily accessible. Square-foot gardening represents the garden grid revolution. The principles of square-foot gardening have revolutionized how many Amish families approach vegetable production. Standing at the edge of an Amish garden organized this way, I marveled at the sheer abundance bursting forth from such a modest space. Where my traditional row garden produced mere handfuls, their grid system yielded overflowing basketfuls. The concept itself is beautifully straightforward. Divide your raised garden bed into a grid of 1-foot squares, then plant each square according to specific spacing guidelines tailored to the particular crop. For instance, larger plants like tomatoes might get one entire square to themselves, while smaller crops like radishes could fit as many as 16 within that same 1-foot square space. The Three Sisters method embodies ancient wisdom yielding modern abundance. Long before European settlers arrived in North America, Native American tribes had perfected the ingenious Three Sisters planting method, a technique later adopted by many Amish farmers. The magic of this system unfolds as corn stalks shoot skyward, serving as natural living trellises for climbing bean varieties. The beans, being legumes, perform the crucial task of capturing nitrogen from the air and converting it into a form usable by plants, effectively nourishing all 3 companions. Meanwhile, low-growing, sprawling squash plants create a living mulch with their broad leaves, shading the soil to conserve moisture and deterring weed growth. Their prickly vines can also discourage animals like raccoons. It's a near-perfect partnership designed by nature itself. Keyhole garden beds allow you to reach everything without walking on the soil. These uniquely shaped circular raised beds feature a notch cut out, resembling a keyhole, which allows the gardener to easily reach every part of the bed without ever needing to step on and compact the growing soil. A distinctive feature is the small composting basket, typically situated in the center of the bed. Kitchen scraps and other organic matter are added to this basket, where they decompose and slowly release nutrients that feed the surrounding plants. Additionally, water poured into the central basket efficiently irrigates the entire bed from the inside out. It's estimated that one keyhole garden bed can typically produce 30% to 40% more vegetables compared to traditional row planting within the same overall square footage. Herb spirals offer a world of flavors at a single glance. Space-saving ingenuity reaches an artistic peak in the form of the herb spiral, a garden feature commonly found among Amish gardeners. This visually appealing, spiraling mound of soil cleverly creates multiple microclimates within a very small footprint, based on variations in height and orientation to the sun. The top of the spiral naturally stays drier and receives more sun, making it perfect for Mediterranean herbs like rosemary or thyme. Conversely, the bottom, northern-facing section remains shadier and retains more moisture, providing ideal conditions for moisture-loving herbs such as mint or parsley. An herb spiral allows you to fit the equivalent of about 20 feet of conventional herb row planting into a compact area roughly 5 feet in diameter. Cold frames constructed from reclaimed windows break through winter's barriers. Broken old windows find remarkable new life in Amish communities, serving as magical portals that extend the growing season into times when it seemingly shouldn't exist. These simple box-like structures are designed to capture solar energy during the daylight hours and release it slowly throughout the night. This process creates spring-like havens for plants even while snow might be blanketing the surrounding landscape. I watched with considerable awe as my neighbor harvested fresh, crisp lettuce in the middle of January from what appeared to be just an ordinary glass-topped box. The temperature difference between the inside of the cold frame and the outside air can be dramatic, often reaching 30 degrees Fahrenheit warmer inside on freezing days. This simple technology effectively transforms winter's limitations into opportunities for unexpected abundance. The hotbed technique utilizes ancient warmth to awaken seeds early, centuries before the invention of electric heat mats. Amish gardeners employed this clever technique to warm soil naturally for early seed starting. The unlikely hero in this method is fresh horse manure. As the manure undergoes decomposition, it releases a significant amount of heat, enough to maintain soil temperatures around a cozy 70 degrees Fahrenheit, even when the outside air temperatures are hovering near freezing. The construction involves layering about 24 inches of fresh manure in a prepared bed or frame, then topping it with 6 to 8 inches of good quality garden soil. This creates a perfect naturally heated seed starting environment. The transformation feels almost magical as seeds germinate readily in frozen February, effectively defying winter's constraints through wisdom far older than electricity. Employing the early-late double harvest strategy allows one space to yield twice the bounty. Why plant your garden just once per season when you could potentially harvest twice? This question was posed by an Amish farmer. Let chickens do the work, nature's perfect pest patrol. As the morning sun casts long shadows across the garden, an Amish farmer opens a small, portable coop, releasing a flurry of feathered workers onto the cultivated ground. These aren't merely chickens, they are nature's highly efficient pest controllers. As they energetically scratch and peck at the soil surface, they eagerly devour grubs, beetles, slugs, and larvae that could otherwise devastate crops. Simultaneously, they deposit small amounts of nitrogen-rich manure, providing perfect fertilizer exactly where it's needed. A relatively small flock of just 10 chickens can effectively clear a substantial garden area of problematic insects within a matter of days, transforming a potential pest disaster into future breakfast eggs. However, the timing of their deployment is critical. Chickens are typically allowed to forage through garden areas before planting and after the final harvest, but never during the main growing season when they would likely damage the crops themselves. Utilize bird attraction methods to enlist winged allies from above. Nature provides its own highly effective pest control service in the form of birds, provided you are wise enough to extend an invitation. Those simple, often homemade birdhouses perched strategically around the edges of Amish gardens aren't just decorative. They serve to attract cavity-nesting bird species, such as wrens, chickadees, and bluebirds, which work tirelessly consuming vast quantities of insects. It's estimated that a single chickadee family can devour over 9,000 insects during just one nesting season. This represents free, natural pest control that simply cannot be purchased in any store. Additionally, incorporating small water features, even just a shallow dish of water refreshed daily, will attract birds looking for drinking and bathing spots. Bringing birds closer to your garden encourages them to hunt for insects among your precious plants. I watched in fascination as a wren meticulously searched my tomato plants, expertly snatching caterpillars that were nearly invisible to my own eyes. Nature's bug blocker can be found in an ancient barrier, diatomaceous earth. The fine white powder sometimes seen scattered around prized plants in Amish gardens isn't some modern chemical pesticide. It's diatomaceous earth, DE, a substance made from the fossilized remains of tiny aquatic organisms called diatoms. To the human touch, DE feels soft like talcum powder, but at a microscopic level, it functions like thousands of incredibly sharp razor blades to insects possessing exoskeletons. When crawling pests like slugs, ants, or beetles attempt to cross a barrier of DE, the sharp microscopic edges of the fossilized shells physically damage their protective outer covering, cuticle. This damage ultimately leads to dehydration and death for the insect. Despite this lethal effect on many pests, food-grade diatomaceous earth remains completely safe for humans, pets, birds, and other wildlife. It's essentially just fossilized shells that are millions of years old. Timing planting to avoid pest cycles utilizes nature's hidden calendar. Perhaps the most potent form of pest control requires no sprays or powders at all, relying instead on a keen understanding of nature's intricate rhythms. By carefully timing the planting of certain crops just 1 week earlier or later than the conventional schedule, Amish gardeners often manage to completely avoid major pest problems that frequently plague their neighbors' gardens. For instance, bean beetles typically emerge in mid-June in many regions. If you plant your beans in early May, the plants will have sufficient time to develop tougher leaves that the beetles find less appealing before the main wave of pests arrives. Alternatively, delaying bean planting until early July, after the peak egg-laying period for the beetles has passed, can also be effective. You're using the same bean variety, the same garden plot, and planting within the same general season, but this strategic timing adjustment can mean the difference between a successful harvest and heartbreaking crop loss. Plant marigolds like you mean it. They are nature's vibrant defenders. Those cheerful, bright orange and yellow marigolds often seen bordering Amish gardens aren't merely decorative elements. They are hard-working plants serving a serious purpose. The roots of certain marigold varieties release chemical compounds into the soil that are known to repel harmful nematodes, microscopic worms that attack plant roots. Additionally, their strong, pungent scent can confuse insects like aphids and beetles that rely on smell to locate your valuable vegetable plants. I personally witnessed a fascinating moment of garden magic. A Colorado potato beetle advancing towards my potato plants abruptly halted at the marigold border, seemed confused, turned around, and retreated. It was a small but powerful demonstration that transformed my understanding of natural plant protection. A garlic spray formula offers ancient defense in a bottle. Instead of resorting to potentially toxic chemical pesticides, consider embracing this centuries-old natural solution by crushing 4 cloves of garlic and letting them soak overnight in a small amount of mineral oil, then straining the mixture and combining it with a pint of water and a teaspoon of mild liquid soap. You create a potent homemade insect repellent. This spray works by overwhelming the olfactory smell receptors that many insects use to locate their preferred host plants. When pests can't effectively smell their dinner, they often simply move on, leaving your garden untouched. A significant advantage of this garlic spray is that it primarily deters pests while generally sparing beneficial insects like ladybugs and bees. Employ companion planting strategies to create friendship gardens. Plants, much like people, often thrive better when situated near compatible neighbors. An Amish gardener once whispered this wisdom to me as she carefully nestled basil plants between her rows of tomatoes. This wasn't just quaint folklore. Scientific evidence suggests the strong aroma of basil can genuinely confuse tomato hornworms, making it harder for them to find the tomato plants. While some gardeners also believe basil enhances tomato flavor, other effective pairings exist. Nasturtiums can act as trap crops, attracting aphids away from more valuable plants like beans or broccoli. Planting carrots near peas is thought to enhance pea growth, while onions planted near carrots can help repel the carrot rust fly. These carefully considered plant partnerships create a living harmony within the garden, where each plant contributes to strengthening the others. Strategic sunflower placement creates towering guardians. The tall, cheerful sunflowers, commonly seen, brightening Amish farms, serve profound purposes that extend far beyond their simple beauty. If you plant sunflowers along the north side of your garden, they will cast beneficial afternoon shade on heat-sensitive crops, like lettuce and spinach. This shading can extend the harvest period for these cool-weather greens by several weeks into the hotter parts of the summer. Furthermore, sunflowers produce abundant pollen and nectar, attracting a veritable army of beneficial insects to your garden. Bees, butterflies, and various predatory wasps, which prey on pest insects, are drawn to the sunflowers and will often stay to help pollinate and protect your entire garden ecosystem. One summer, I conducted a small experiment and observed, much to my amazement, that tomato plants growing near sunflower plant marigolds like you mean it, nature's vibrant defenders. The garlic spray formula companion planting strategies, strategic sunflower placement, root cellaring without a cellar, solar dehydration system, salt preservation method, lactofermentation basics reveal the food that preserves itself. Fruit trees manage the Fukuoka. Perennial vegetables constitute community harvest. Harvest coordination becomes a seed swapping networks function. Community help acts as the do less, grow more. These ancient secrets